Chapter 1. Picking Your Place. Using massage as a means to heal others is not a new practice. Archaeological evidence tells us that people have been practicing massage for thousands of years, even as far back as ancient Egypt and China. It was a worldwide practice, too, with evidence being found in places such as India, Greece, and even Rome. However, with the advent of modern medicine, techniques like massage began to fade into the background. Massage as we know it today didn't become popular until it was revived in the late 19th century by a Swedish gymnast named Per Henrik Ling. Throughout his life, Ling made several observations about how touch can be used to heal. He used these observations to develop a system of movements, which became the foundation of Swedish massage, a basic technique learned by almost all therapists today. Massage continued to grow in popularity throughout the 20th century. However, for many, it was viewed as a luxury. There were even lots of people in the medical community who did not consider it as a legitimate form of treatment, despite the growing body of evidence on the benefits of massage. This has changed over time, though. As more and more people began to seek natural methods of healing, many states and countries began to pass laws to regulate the practice of massage and define standards for professionals. Today, massage therapists are generally considered part of the medical community. Many therapists work with doctors and other healthcare practitioners in both the treatment and prevention of diseases, while others focus on helping people improve their health and well-being. My point in telling you all of this is to help you understand that you are about to become a part of something big. When you become a massage therapist, you become part of a growing, thriving industry that has a rich history. You will join the ranks of thousands of professionals who are dedicated to improving the health and well-being of people around them. Not only that, but you will have opportunities to advance the profession of massage therapy as well, which will benefit generations of therapists after you. So, tip number 1. Never underestimate the influence you will have on others, from your clients to your colleagues to your communities. Now that you have a background knowledge of massage as a profession, it is time to get started with becoming a professional. Remember how I said before that laws were passed to regulate and standardize the massage therapy profession? You have to be aware of these laws and regulations from the outset, as they will impact every aspect of your career. Thankfully, we are going to start at the beginning and take baby steps. This will make it much easier to learn than trying to drink from a fire hose of information. Tip number 2. Decide what country you will be practicing in. Make sure you know that country's laws and regulations of massage. As a small disclaimer, in this book, we are only going to be covering the laws and regulations that pertain to massage therapists in the United States. If you plan on practicing outside the U.S., make sure to do your research, as laws vary from country to country. State licensing requirements. In order to legally practice massage therapy and receive compensation for it, or in other words, get paid to do it, you first have to receive a license to practice massage from the state you will be practicing in. Tip number 3. Decide which state you will be practicing in, then research how to get a license so you will know what is required. Each state has its own individual set of requirements for massage therapists to complete before they can become licensed. Many of these requirements can overlap. For example, almost all states require the therapist to complete a certain number of hours of education, as well as pass the national exam. Some require you to complete a background check. However, there are states that have special requirements that a therapist must complete in addition to their regular training. For example, Pennsylvania requires therapists to take a course about recognizing and reporting child abuse before they can become licensed. For the most current information, it is best to go to your state's government website and search there for the information. Depending on your state's laws, it can either be regulated by a medical department, a labor department, or a specific massage therapy board. For example, in Colorado, where I initially got my license, the Department of Regulatory Agencies is responsible for regulating massage licenses. Once you find the correct department, your state's website will also have the correct contact information for that department, so you can contact them with any questions you may have. Alternatively, if you find your state's website is hard to navigate, then it might be helpful to start with sites such as massagetherapylicense.org. Here, you can navigate directly to the state you want to learn about, and it will list all of the requirements of that state, as well as links to relevant sites. Be aware that there are some states, Kansas, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Vermont, and Wyoming, that do not currently have statewide regulations concerning massage. In this case, you would have to learn about the regional or local laws that govern the practice of massage. If there are none, you can still obtain a national certification before starting your practice. Tip number 4. If you plan to work in a different state than the one you go to school in, make sure you meet all of the requirements of that state. Remember, not all states share the same requirements. If you go to school in Maryland, for example, but then decide you want to practice in Rhode Island, then you need to make sure that your education and training meet the requirements for Rhode Island. If it doesn't, then you won't be able to get a license there. This doesn't mean that you have to go to a school in the same state that you plan to practice in. It just means you may have to do a little extra work to get there. Tip number 5. It's always a good idea to become CPR and first aid certified. Not every state will require you to become certified in CPR and first aid before issuing your license. In fact, some may only require you to get certified when you first apply, but then don't require you to maintain it afterwards. However, it is always a good idea to get CPR certified and maintain that certification throughout your career. Not only does it lend you credibility as a professional, but it also protects you from certain legal repercussions and helps you be prepared in case of an emergency. Yes, even in massage there can be health emergencies that require your attention. As the saying by George Ellis goes, "It is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it." Tip number 6. Once you are licensed, you should be able to transfer it to any other state. This is good news for anyone who has to move. As long as your license is current and in good standing with the state you used to practice in, most states will be able to issue you a new license in the new state without any issues. You would just have to comply with the new state's laws and regulations. This might require that you complete 1 or 2 extra things, but for the most part, the transfer process is relatively easy. For example, I first got licensed in my home state of Colorado. After a few months, I moved to Idaho in order to attend college. While my license from Colorado was still active, I could not use it to work as a massage therapist in Idaho. I had to get a brand new license from the state of Idaho first before I could start working as a massage therapist. When I applied for the new Idaho license, I provided all of my information and my certification from Colorado. Since I was in good standing with the state of Colorado, they approved my application and issued me a new license. For a period of time after that, I was licensed to practice in both states. So, I suppose theoretically, you could become licensed in all 50 states, plus the District of Columbia. But I don't think this would be reasonable because of this next point. Tip number 7. Stay on top of renewing your licenses and certifications. After you get your license, you will be required to renew it either every year or every other year, depending on your state's licensing procedures. Renewing it usually involves paying a renewal fee, as well as complying with the requirements for renewal. These requirements aren't usually difficult, however, they do vary from state to state. For example, in order to renew my Colorado license, I had to either be actively practicing massage or I had to complete some continuing education courses. As long as I completed either, I could renew my license, no problem. In Idaho, however, I am required to take at least 6 continuing education, CE, credits each year before I can renew. Make sure you know your state's renewal requirements and stay on top of it throughout the year. The last thing you want is to get a renewal notice, only to suddenly realize that you haven't gotten any CEs yet. That happened to me once. Whoops! Thankfully, I was able to get all of my CEs completed before the renewal period was up. We will discuss CEs more in depth in a later chapter. Where to work. Now that we have gotten the legal requirements out of the way, it's time for a fun brainstorming session. Tip number 8. Have an idea of the locations and people you want to work with before you start going to school. This will help guide your education. Massage therapy in general is a very versatile career. As a massage therapist, you can work in a wide variety of places, and where you decide to work depends largely on which aspect of massage you want to focus on, whether that is healing, relaxation, or simply to have a fun job. Some of these places can include spas, gyms, sports clinics, doctor's offices, resorts, cruise ships, corporate offices, nursing homes, hospitals, chiropractic clinics, dentist offices, franchise locations like Massage Envy, hotels, clients' homes, your own home. Massage therapists also work with lots of different populations of people. By populations, I mean people who share similar traits or health statuses. Some of these populations include athletes, recreational and/or professional, pregnant women, infants and children, elderly, car accident victims, people recovering from an injury or surgery, cancer patients, animals. Yes, you can even learn to massage people's pets. Having an idea of where you would like to work and what kind of clients you would like to work with will guide you throughout your education and help you discover your niche. For example, if you are interested in working with athletes, then a class in sports massage would probably be more interesting to you than a class on spa treatments. It's okay if you don't know what you want to specialize in right now. You don't have to decide right away. Even if you do know, that could easily change once you start going to school. Tip number 9. Start with an idea of what you want to specialize in. Then be open to changing your mind once you start taking classes. I once took a class on pregnancy massage because I figured that some of my future clients could be pregnant, and I wanted to know how to treat them. It turned out to be a comprehensive class on how to specialize in pregnancy massage. Although I learned lots of useful information from it, taking the class also made me realize that I didn't want to specialize in pregnancy massage. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't taken the class. Tip number 10. Try out lots of options before you narrow down your specialties. While you are in school, and even before then, take some time to explore as many specialties as you want. One of the best ways to do this is by getting massages yourself, or even by talking to other massage therapists. Exploring massage therapy like this can help you become aware of all of the different modalities that exist in the market today, as well as the specific benefits that each can bring to your future clients. But don't worry about the sheer number of options available. You can always narrow down your niche later. Tip number 11. Pick 1 or 2 specialties, instead of trying to master everything all at once. On the other hand, keep in mind that you will be able to market yourself better if you have a few things that you specialize in, rather than having a superficial knowledge in lots of areas. If, after trying lots of options, you find that 1 or 2 pique your interest the most, then I would suggest that you focus on mastering them first. This can be accomplished through a combination of school training and CEs, but it can also be accomplished through specialized training programs. Again, we will cover this more in depth later in the guide. Choosing the right school. All right, now that you've got an idea of what you are looking for, it's time to go shopping for your future massage school. Yes, this will include more research, but trust me, it's worth it. As long as you fulfill the requirements for your license, many states don't care which school you go to. They couldn't care less whether or not you took that elective on Lomi Lomi massage or whether or not you aced that Business 101 class. But these are exactly the kinds of things that will define your education and determine what kind of experience you will have while in school. Therefore, in order to make sure that you get the best return on investment, you should always research any potential schools to see if they are a good fit for you. While the following tips are not a comprehensive list of everything you should look at while doing your research, they are some of the most important ones to keep in mind. Tip number 12. Pick a school that will help you meet all of the requirements for your license. This one is an easy one. If it is a legitimate massage school, they will already have an idea of the licensing requirements for the state they are located in, and they will have formatted their curriculum accordingly. All the same, it is a good idea to check if what the school offers matches what your state requires. This is especially important if you are planning on becoming licensed in a different state. Tip number 13. Check to see whether or not the school is accredited. You would not think that such a small detail would be so important, but it is actually a huge deal. If your massage school is accredited, that means the school's curriculum lives up to the standards of a specific accrediting organization. This ensures that the school provides quality training to their students. There are several organizations that can offer accreditation to massage schools. The United States Department of Education, USDE, is the foremost authority, but there are also other organizations that do so voluntarily, such as the Commission on Massage Therapy Accreditation, COMTA. This was the accreditation that my school, the Colorado Institute of Massage Therapy, had when I applied there. Why is this important, you ask? Well, it's important for two reasons. One, some states will only accept your education if you completed it at an accredited school. And two, even if your school becomes accredited after your graduation, your education will not be grandfathered into it. This happened to an old coworker of mine. She went to a local massage school here in Idaho that was in the process of becoming accredited. She graduated, became licensed, and started practicing before the accreditation process was finished. About a year later, that massage school became accredited. When she contacted the school to see if the accreditation applied to her, they told her that it did not. The accreditation only applied to students who graduated after the accreditation process was complete. Now, this may not be a big deal to you if your state does not require it, but keep in mind that accredited schools are guaranteed to provide a quality education, and they are more likely to be accepted should you ever need to move to another state. Tip number 14. Check the school's course catalog to see what courses they offer. You can do this at the same time you do your brainstorming session mentioned in the last section. While you are researching, take a look at the school's course catalog. There, you will find a list of all of the classes the school offers. While there are some classes that are the same across the board, such as anatomy and physiology, there are others that are unique to that school in particular. This can help you decide which school you might want to attend. For example, suppose you already know that you want to learn more about Thai massage. You can check if the school offers a course about it. Or suppose you want to learn more about spa treatments. Classes such as hot stone massage or aromatherapy would be applicable. Or suppose you don't know exactly what you're looking for. Knowing what kinds of classes each school offers can help. If you are looking at the course catalog and a class on energy techniques piques your interest, it might be worth investigating further. Tip number 15. Pick a school that is within your acceptable price range. I'm just going to lay it out here. The average massage school training costs between $6,000 and $10,000, depending on the classes offered. Now, before you start freaking out, I want to put this into perspective a bit. While it may seem expensive to go to massage school, it is actually cheaper than a college degree in the long run. Don't believe me? Well, let's do some basic math. The average college tuition is roughly $9,900 per semester, not including housing, books, and supplies. At 2 semesters per year for a 4-year bachelor's degree, your total education cost would be roughly $79,200 in total. And even after graduation, you're not guaranteed to start working right away. Now, let's compare that to massage school. Suppose your massage school charges $10,000 for an 850-hour program, which you will complete in 11 months. That is all you will pay for tuition, and it takes you less than a year to graduate. As soon as you graduate, you can jump into the workforce almost immediately. You get your return on investment much sooner. Granted, $6,000 to $10,000 is still a decent chunk of change. Keep your financial situation in mind while you do your research. That brings me to the next tip. Tip number 16. Check to see if the school offers financial aid, scholarships, or payment plans. If you find your dream school that offers everything you are looking for that you just have to apply to, but then find out that you can't afford it, it can be absolutely soul-crushing. Fortunately, there are other options that can help you out. There are some government grants that can be accepted by certain schools. For example, the school I went to in Colorado was willing to accept payment from the Montgomery GI Bill, post-9/11 GI Bill, and Military Spouse Career Advancement Account, MyCAA programs. In other states, schools might be willing to accept financial aid given through the FAFSA system. Make sure to check each school's website to see what they are willing to accept. Some schools will have payment plans available for students who can't pay the entire tuition up front. It works similar to when you pay back a loan. The entire cost is broken up into chunks that you can pay monthly. Depending on the school's policies, you might even be able to choose how much you pay each month. And you can pay larger amounts when you can afford it, with no penalties. If this is the best route for you, then make sure to set it up during the application process. Tip number 17. Pick a school that is within the distance you are willing to travel. When I was researching for massage schools, a lot of my attention was focused on schools in Colorado. It made sense to me. I could live at home while I went to school, which would cut back on other costs substantially. However, at one point during my search, I did consider moving to Texas. See, I had an aunt who was living in Texas at the time. While I was searching for the right massage school, my mom suggested that I could see if there were any schools near where my aunt lived. If I found one that I liked, then I could live with her while I completed my education. So I did, and I found a couple different places that I liked in both Colorado and Texas. I was even torn for a moment, because both schools were so awesome. But ultimately, I picked the one in Colorado because it was closer to home. Conversely, there was an ex-coworker of mine who was interested in becoming a massage therapist a couple years ago. The local massage school wasn't accredited at the time, so she decided to attend a school that was in another city an hour and a half away. For her, driving the extra miles to go to the right school was worth it. Tip number 18. Consider visiting the school in person before enrolling. Many schools encourage potential students to come visit in person. If you have time and the school is close to where you live, consider stopping by to see what the school is like. The faculty and staff who work there will be able to give you a tour of the facility and answer any questions that you may have. Some schools will also offer an informational session or a special workshop for people who are interested in attending. This is a good way to get to know the school and the people who work there. It's also a good way to learn about the massage therapy profession in general, from people who have lots of experience. Who knows? You might even meet some of your future classmates. Tip number 19. Check to see if the school offers any unique amenities. Every school has its perks. Some schools may be really small, which is great if you prefer smaller classrooms and a more one-on-one approach, while others may be large enough to offer some amenities to their students. For example, the school I went to had a small retail store in the lobby, stocked full of lotions and oils, textbooks, massage tools, and polos with the school's name on them. They were all offered at discounted prices for students. This was an incredible resource to have when starting out my education, since I could buy all the supplies I needed for class right there in the same building. As a bonus, had I continued practicing in the same area, I could have continued to buy my supplies from them. This same school also offered a cadaver lab as an elective class. See, the school shared their building with a medical research center. Part of the research center's agreement with the school was that they would allow massage students to participate in a cadaver lab once or twice a year. This was one of the things that sold me when I was doing my research. I'd only ever seen a cadaver lab once in passing during high school, so the idea that I could participate in a real lab was so cool to me. So, yeah, check to see what unique amenities the school has to offer. While this won't be essential to your education, it can help you narrow down your choices. Tip number 20. Be aware of admission requirements. Make sure to complete them according to when you would like to start taking classes. Once you have decided which school to attend, the next step is to complete and submit your application. Each school will have their own process to apply, so we won't go into much detail in this section. Just remember that, much like college, there is usually a deadline to submit your application by. If you miss that deadline, you may end up starting school later than you wanted. Be aware of class start dates and submission deadlines, and give yourself enough time to complete everything. Also, be aware that there is usually an application fee, as well as other fees once you become registered. These are separate from tuition, so be prepared for the additional expense. Tip number 21. Remember, any investment you make into your education becomes an investment into your future career. Congratulations! You've taken the first big steps to becoming a massage therapist. All of the work that you have put into researching has been an investment into you. Now you're not just prepared to dive into school, but you're also laying a solid foundation for a successful future career. Just a heads up, though, you still have a lot of work ahead of you. The journey's only just begun. In the next chapter, we will go over what to expect from your classes, as well as give you some tips on how to pass with flying colors.